the customers that you guys are helping, that becomes priority number one, and making sure that those, how you deliver those, the services and what your deliverables are needs to be ironclad. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And be open, honest, be trustworthy, be transparent. Like I said, we may not have that answer, but I do know somebody that does. And if we solve that problem, wow, Armando, it may be a problem in our area of responsibility next time, if you know what I mean. And we have a relationship and we trust each other. I will be that first phone call.
Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall, where we throw ideas, see what sticks, and nurture those that do. I'm your host, Armando, an actor, entrepreneur, and coach, giving you insights that light up your world. We're here to explore the realms of business, marketing, and life, serving up a shot of inspiration with every episode. Ready to make ideas stick and grow them into something great? Let's dive in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are listening to this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Spaghetti on the Wall, back with another one. Ron Cox in the building, or outside the building, I should say. What's up, Ron? You're in the show me state.
That's right. Hey, how you doing, Armando? Good to talk to you again, my friend.
It's good to talk to you. So you just told me that the show me state is because people in Missouri don't trust each other, and so they're like, show me. Is that really where it came from?
I think so. I mean, that's my opinion. I've spent 27 years in Missouri, equal time not in Missouri, but other states around the Midwest. And the time I was here, there was a lot of people that kept referring to each other as back in the day. So whatever that means. But back in the day, people had the mindset, they don't trust their neighbors. They don't believe in it. So, hey, show me the proof. I'll believe it for myself if I can see it.
What is back in the day to you?
Back in the day to me would be probably something with the 1800s, let's say, back in the day.
There you go. That's back in the day for sure. So Ron Cox and I are a part of an organization called the Visionary Forum, and we've met a few times and see each other on these Zoom calls. And got to talk to Ron, and what an interesting individual. Biggest, besides him just being an amazing person, really wanted to dive into, running a company that's nine figures. How you guys were able to you said you 300x the business?
Yeah.
And how did you guys do that? Like, let's talk about where it was, talk about, how you got in, and then let's talk about how you guys scaled that business that hard.
Yeah. Actually, the good news is we had a good foundation, solid foundation. The organization, let's start at a point in time, 2017. 2017, the organization, it's about 100 million top line annual operating. And we had a founder who was looking to exit. And obviously he had hit the growth targets and the numbers that he and his family were interested in. And so we took a look at that and said, there's so much more to this organization and those opportunities out there across the country, but we can't do it with the team we have. And so it really started before you start scaling and you're going to grow 1, 2, 3 times the size of your organization, you need to step back and assess what you have as far as people. Everyone knows that. Entrepreneurs know the rule is people, people, people. Your biggest expense is going to be your human capital. You're going to surround yourself with talent. So make sure that that's a good investment. And that's what we did. We started by just flavor of the week, flavor of the month, flavor of the quarter, personality tests. How well do you work together? I still remember one of our first meetings, Armando, is interesting. We were grounded in transportation, solid transportation organization. And so we, as a reference, we put a bus up on the whiteboard and we put seats on it. And there was a dozen seats allocated on that bus. And we said, in this bus, that's your role. So what seat do you occupy? And give yourself a label. So we said, go up there and label it. And then kind of like an EOS, if you will, now let's assign an accountability for that role, that seat, that label, that title, whatever. We're not even talking about formal job descriptions like how much we're going to pay you for that role or that activity. That's all going to come later. Does that make sense?
And yeah, for sure. So that's where you guys started. You guys, you talk about why, and we can unpack all of this, and it's probably going to take us longer than 45 minutes, but I just want to get to the high points, but you were brought into the company because of your vast knowledge with Stephen Covey, and all of that. Give me just a little backstory on that.
Yeah. My passion is people, obviously, that you want to get me excited. Let's talk about developing teams and leadership. Well, I had spent a decade at the Covey Institute working with Dr. Covey, and we were working around the country, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or it's a small mom and pop startup, with an entrepreneur and his wife, and or the local school boards, and then the superintendent's leadership teams, and then we went into local churches, and they could click a box, hit the speakers bureau, say this person is somebody that has an experience or background in this vertical or this area. And so I got a lot, and I gleaned a lot of experience with Dr. Covey and at the Covey Institute. And so we took that on day one with our team and our assessment. 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teams, People, Organization. And it really starts with the end in mind, obviously, putting first things first. And I know EOS uses a lot of same terminology like big rocks. Like, okay, our time is very finite. So we have to organize it in a way that's going to hit those rocks, those goals. Everything's going to be aligned properly. And so through Covey and later on into EOS, yeah, that's the starting point, Armando.
How do you advise somebody on what those priorities should be?
Well, you and we're going to have a debate. Yeah, we're going to need 3 more episodes because Ron Cox, I'm old, obviously. And what I will tell you is the priority should be the alignment of the resource, i.e., the human capital, to solve the customer's concern, complaint, problem. Because that's called building a relationship. If you come to me at a time where your company's struggling for whatever reason, it's a service, it's a widget, I don't know. But if I can come in and you and I brainstorm that solution, and it may or may not be me or any of my organizations that are under our umbrella, but I can tell you, and I'll be honest and transparent, it's not me, but it's Armando, or it's my other affiliate through, someone who I've met through the Covey Institute. And aligning those resources to solve those problems, because it's going to start with people, and people are most impacted by what? Relationships. It's emotional.
So you're saying that before you get into what the visionary wants for his business, step number 1 is making sure that the customers that you guys are helping, that becomes priority number 1, and making sure that those, how you deliver those, the services and what your deliverables are needs to be ironclad. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And be open, honest, be trustworthy, be transparent. Like I said, we may not have that answer, but I do know somebody that does. And if we solve that problem, wow, Armando, it may be a problem in our area of responsibility next time, if you know what I mean. And we have a relationship and we trust each other. I will be that first phone call.
Well, what do you say to people? What do you say to entrepreneurs that are like, well, I've got to, I got to focus on top line revenue. You know what I mean? Like I got to focus on sales. Like you want me to sit here and work on operations. I got to get money in the building.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, obviously, I'm going to break it down and keep it very elementary here, just for the sake of this example. But your first dollar is probably your most important dollar, because if you don't have a client, you don't have a dollar, and vice versa. So now that you have a dollar, let's say it's a $1, what's the operational excellence needed to make sure that of that $1, it only costs you, let's say your profit margin's 10%. So if my GP is going to be 10, then I got to figure out an operational excellence that's going to get that 90 cents. So that 90 cents, whatever we do to solve that problem to the customer satisfaction, has got to be done within that 90% range there. And that 90% range, again, your biggest cost is going to be the people. And so first dollar is only going to be generated through trust in a customer or client. So yes, you have to have sales. That starts this whole process. But I don't want to spend $2 to get $1 to the top line. So it can't be everything. It is important, but it isn't everything, because operational excellence will decide how much you put back in your organization to get the next project, to hire, to grow, to scale, and to solve more problems. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I heard A friend of mine has said this about ratios. Would love to know what your opinion is on it. But he said 37% of your revenue should go to employees, 25% should go to marketing, 10% operations, and then the rest should go into your pocket.
I guess I would say, personally, for me, I've obviously been in a lot of different sectors, and obviously competitiveness is going to drive that. I think the biggest fallacy is the fact that I provide the best service, therefore I charge the most amount of money. And people say that it's a kind of an arrogance. Me, in my humble opinion, I'm probably more humble than that. I would say that it's not a set ratio for each one of the industries, but what will drive that obviously is going to be what's the market. What's the market? You're not doing your homework if you haven't done surveys and understand, what this widget cost, and is it a better widget? Is it the same widget? And what does it cost you to get it to market, to manufacture it, and then also to service it? So the ratios, I've been in industries, honestly, Armando, where 51% of the monies go back into the company through a profit. And that's through mainly service type stuff. But I think it's different from sector to sector. So I wouldn't have a set number. I know, for example, one of the companies we work with, the market will tell you that you probably are going to be in the 10 to 12%. If you're in the 10 to 12% GP, then you're going to be competitive and you're going to win a lot of jobs. If you're higher than that, and you want to put more monies back in, you probably aren't going to be competitive. You can still compete and get jobs because of your proximity, and you are providing a really high level of service, but you're not going to win every time, and you certainly aren't going to grow 2, 3, 4x like we did.
So if you are emerging tech, right? Like it's a new business, you're in this blue ocean, you don't really have a lot of competition. How are you getting those metrics if you don't have anything to measure it up against?
Great question. I will tell you, and this is probably controversial for some of your listeners, but we got to go there because it's billions of dollars in business. We had a lot of RFP responses, and we chased a lot of RFPs. Well, if you chase a lot of RFPs and you're doing business in the public sector, let's say, because it's public dollars, they have to publish all that. And so we survey that information. We actually go after sunshine law requests. So we'll ask, a school district or a local municipality, a county, a state, even the federal government, post those bids, post those costs of providing that service, post the product that's going to solve your issue, your concern, or your challenge. We'll bring that in house and we'll analyze and say, how can they, is it us? Are we charging because our labor rates are higher in that market? Are we competing, for union contracts, non-union contracts? Are we not buying right from the supplier? We sell a ton of Motorola. We buy the best in the United States, we believe, from Motorola because of our volume. And so we'll break it down. The widget costs this. We buy right. So what's the discrepancy? You can get a lot of that information, Armando, by doing the RFP process and going through the government, because there's a lot of stuff in the government, obviously, whatever the commodity, pens, pencils, whatever it is, that you're going to be out there in the enterprise industries competitively bidding as well. And they may or may not even tell you how much they spent on it, but it'll give you a good frame of reference.
What's the difference? And there's probably a lot, but what's the difference between operating, a 7-figure business as opposed to like a 9-figure business?
Well, I can tell you, we're transitioning, and we had at one point in time as many as 14 different companies, and we were in both categories. We were in the startup, on the IT side, and we were all the way up to being one of the largest Freightliner dealers in North America. So equipment, and that's a $200 million annual sales and service equipment for people. And so I tell you, the difference for me personally, and what I witnessed in our own organizations is the people. I'll go back to the people. If you have a structure, and not just the number of people, but you got to have quality people. The most successful team that ran the $200 million organization, Armando, comes down to a couple simple things. One, diversity. I will tell you, when I came in to the organization, The companies that struggled the most were the ones that had the 1985 mentality, and it's command and control. Well, command and control or demand or leave, that's not going to work in those large organizations, Armando. We looked around the team, and that bus analogy I showed you with the 12 seats, it was unbelievable the difference in just 18 months. Like, what does that look like? It looks like a 1965 boardroom. 1985 boardroom was a little sprinkle of a different type of flavor, whatever you want to call that. It could be gender, it could be age. You know, you and I, we need 3 more episodes to talk about the difference between an X and a Y generation, or a millennial versus a baby
Yeah.
boomer. That's the difference. You want to run a successful large organizations, you surround your boardroom with talented men, women, any any and all different races that you can get in there. And probably the thing that's most forgotten is the age. Age. You want to do a podcast and talk about how you're going to motivate a 20 something year old versus a 70 something year old? It's not even the same recipe, my friend.
No, for sure. Um, it's so, it's the struggle of someone that's like coming up, right? If you had to start over today, right? You had nothing. What are some of the first things that you would do? What's a business that you would start? How would you do it? And how would you grow it?
If I'm starting me and I
Yeah.
didn't buy an existing company, regardless of the size, I would start with the fact that you got to align yourself with your passion. So it's got to be in an industry that you are passionate about. And this is a little dramatic, but I will tell you, it sounds really bad, but it's true. Would you do that for free? Because some days you may not make money at that, right? There's going to be ebbs and flows. But is it okay because you're solving a problem? Whatever that might be, you have to be passionate about it. I've been in organizations and industries I'm not passionate about. And unfortunately, I'm sitting back as very much supportive and listening, but I'm thinking, is it 2 o'clock yet? Because I really want to go to that 2 o'clock meeting, and we're talking about, saving lives in one of the pharmaceutical companies. And I'm like, I'm all about that, man. I'd stay there till 7 o'clock at night. And this other one might have been about, hey, I want to talk about what we could do different in our construction materials, like our concrete, if we wanted it to cure faster for a highway project. And I'm like, oh man, great question. But I'm not a scientist. Gosh, what time was the health meeting today?
Right. How many businesses are you running?
Well, that's another chapter. But we actually, in the summer of 23, at our group, we actually divested ourselves of our 2 largest organizations. In literally a matter of about 2 months, we transitioned away from about 2,300 employees. And so those were the large organizations, 2,000 plus employees. Today, we are really focused on access control, video surveillance, security. That company there, like, for example, in this area around the metro in Kansas City, we do the NFL stadium. So like Arrowhead, areas that have huge crowds that show up, 70, 80,000 people, we want to keep them safe. So the weapons detection, that's an area. And in that, we also have a warehouse where we'll wholesale a lot of stuff, even to our competitors, to help get out there for men and women, and especially in uniform, police departments, jails, Department of Corrections. So it's really grown into all areas. And that area is probably 3 or 4 different verticals. And then IT, we work with Google on Google Suites for Education. And that really blossomed through remote learning, and we became one of the trusted partners of Google. Thank goodness for us, and the fact we were deploying 500 devices a semester for remote learning. So in that technology space, access control, video surveillance, some other companies like that. But yeah, I'd say probably 4 different verticals today.
Wow. And does a company like that need to market?
Yeah, we do actually. I wish that we were the only preferred provider for Google, but we're one of. And so when you're one of, and there's people constantly getting certified and going through the approval process, We do, but I will tell you, as an entrepreneur, you got to, if you're listening to this, take notes, because it's like a TSA pre-check. You get through that fast lane. Get yourself in as many cooperative purchasing programs as you can, my friend, because
Cooperating,
cooperative
cooperative.
purchasing programs.
What is that?
And so what it is it allows a lot of smaller organizations to come in and collectively buy at the same price point as a larger organization. I'll give you an example. We are involved in a cooperative purchasing platform that's a federal program out of Texas. It's called TIPS. It's an acronym. But what that does is, if you are an organization that's governed by some purchasing requirements, like, it's public money. Obviously, you got to be transparent with public money. Thank God, because that's my tax money. And so what you'd have to do is say, okay, I advertised in a public space. I made sure that I met all the requirements. And there's institutions out there for the government like NIGP, National Institute Government Procurement, that sets the rules, right? It's the rules of engagement. So you got to advertise it for a certain amount of time in a certain space, allowing everyone in the United States and abroad to provide goods and services at a certain price. And so once we do that, they publish it. Well, this platform and program has hundreds, maybe even thousands of members. And so those organizations, they may not have a robust, purchasing department. They may not have a robust, HR department or whoever. A lot of stuff in small organizations are probably purchased by the secretary at the front desk. So she doesn't have the time to write a bid, advertise in a paper, let alone get a committee together, interview 7 to 10 firms, make a recommendation, go back to her board of governance or whoever she reports to, and then weed it all out. And then, they want to do presentations. Shortcut. You go into the cooperative purchasing program, get yourself a price established, get awarded the contract. Any of their members will go in and buy off that platform. We've got, I would say, probably last year, $20 to $25 million just brought in that we didn't even have to go out and formally submit a bid or a proposal. They hit the easy button on the platform and said, hey, that pen or that widget was publicly bid, meets all of our local purchasing policies. Buy a case of these for that office or that school or that university, whatever it is. But yeah, that's great shortcut for you as an organization. And it helps the small guy buy and really help them with their budgets as well.
For what type of businesses?
Oh gosh, it would work for any type of organization, office. The example I gave you in a lot of those transactions, actually, the same price was at the federal government, right? So we were shipping, I'll call them widgets, but we were shipping widgets to the 2 new FBI buildings. We were shipping those same widgets across town to Commerce Bank. So in the financial sector, financial industries. Oh, by the way, we sent 3 of those widgets to your child's elementary school. So from the elementary school to the local bank, maybe a library, all the way up to the FBI.
So how does somebody get involved in that? Like, there's a process, I'm sure. You got to sign, fill out a bunch of paperwork.
Yeah, the purchasing cooperative or purchasing platform, they will do a bid. Like it's simple. You could go out to Google, the old search box, and you could put in purchasing procurement, cooperative purchasing programs. Click it. It'll have several. There's organizations out there. Like I said, I gave you the TIPS one. Here in the metro, there's people that buy off of one that's affiliated with ASBO. So another one of those government acronyms, but it's called Association of School Business Officials. And so if you go out and you see Association of School Business Officials, that organization alone has just over 7,000 public school districts in and around the United States. So that's a market of 7,000 members that could click and hit the easy button if they choose. Well, you could also click on there and say cooperative bids and pricing, and it may be, I don't know, iPads, iPhones. It could be any of that. It could be a utility provider for cordless or wireless services. It could be an internet provider. You could get that price.
Is it service based?
It can be. Oh yeah, for sure. And once you get that, there might, and for example, it might say, here's some territorial adjustments, like Texas. In Texas, here's your price range. And then, all of a sudden, maybe Montana, it's a little different because obviously the cost of providing that service will be different. And a lot of those markets, it's really tied to labor. So a widget in or a service provider in New York is obviously going to be different than somebody in Oklahoma.
Huh.
But your range is published, so as a vendor what you're going to make, and as a customer what you're going to pay. Very little negotiation. Certainly not this long. Get a committee together, review a proposal, interview 9 people, blah 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 blah. Pay for this, pay for the ads. Hurt a bunch of people's feelings. It's not political, so you're not giving it to Aunt Susie or Uncle Billy.
That's pretty cool. I had never, I didn't know that existed. So I appreciate you dropping that knowledge for me, man. That's amazing. So you can just, sign up and be there with all of these other people and they can just choose who they want to work with.
20 million reasons why to do it for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely going to. What's the website?
The organization that we are affiliated with is TIPS, TIPS. It's obviously starts with Texas, but the last one I think is Procurement Services. So maybe Incorporated. I don't have it memorized, but if you put in purchasing cooperative or purchasing platform and you put in that TIPS, it'll bring you to it. It's one of the largest in the country. ASBO was the other one, and
ASBO.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let me try to wrap my head around this. It's organizations that want to find a widget seller and they go, okay, I'm just going to go here instead of like Googling everybody that's on, that could do this for me. The people that have filled this out probably are, is there like criteria? Is there something that like, are people weeding out like bad businesses in there?
Absolutely. There's some performance criteria. It's not all based on price, obviously. Price is a leading driver, but there's other things. For example, there'll be questions. What type of organization are you? Are you an LLC? Are you a not-for-profit? Are you a minority business? Are you a woman-owned business? I mean, there's some other categories and criteria. It'll also talk a little bit about, obviously, where are you located? Because one of the things that is somewhat different, and it's not everywhere, so I'm talking about a small market size, but some people have what they call a local purchasing preference policy. So I'll break that down. For this small town that I'm sitting in right here, I know for a fact, because I've done business with them, they have a local purchasing preference policy. And so, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying the way they do it and the reason they do it is because these local companies here, these little mom and pop shops, they obviously generate a lot of property tax for this community. And so having a business here, paying a lot of property tax, paying sales tax. Oh, by the way, hiring the residents in this small town, full employment here is important. We want to obviously see that sales tax goes into, now there's property tax for that house over there or that condo. So the workers are investing in the community. So what's that worth? Well, the local government says, well, if we're going to spend public money, taxpayer money, county, city, school, whatever that is, even the libraries, they'll say, you can pay an extra 3, 4, 5% for this widget as long as it's a local vendor, because they really take care of the community. And so you got to kind of look at that too. But that's, like I said, there's only a few local purchasing preference policies that will force them to buy local.
So I should look around New Orleans for these type of companies that are looking for New Orleans companies.
Yes.
I love it. Ron, that was amazing. That's why I do this podcast, because you never know what you don't know what you don't know, right? Like I had no idea that this world even existed. So I appreciate you turning me on to that. I'm definitely going to start that process of looking into that for sure. How do people find you, Ron, if they want to, they want to follow you?
I think the best thing right now is because of the sell and the transition and where we're at right now and launching our new organizations is I'd say that I'm most responsive if you send me an email, ron.cox at kcnllc.com.
There you go.
It's pretty simple.
Very
My name's
simple.
short, thank goodness.
Yeah. Ron, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for spending some time with me and dropping that. You guys go out and look at these programs, because it'll change your business, change your life.
Appreciate you having me on, Armando. I always learn a lot every time we get together, my friend.
Yeah. And that was Spaghetti on the Wall, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Leduc Entertainment for all of your digital marketing needs, podcasting, social media. We got you. And keep listening, keep watching, and we'll see y'all next time.